Well, I too have struggled with GI issues over the years. I have something called Lynch syndrome. So, gut health is extremely important to me. And while gut health awareness has increased, it's led to a wellness trend that's inspired a host of questionable marketing and some false claims. Now, you've seen the word probiotic attached to all kinds of supplements, drinks, even more. They may claim to deliver the healthy microorganisms our gut needs for proper function, but all too often the promises are in fact too good to be true. Thankfully, I became aware of a company called Seed and their flagship product, the Daily Symbiotic. Seed's Daily Symbiotic offers 24 clinically researched strains of microorganisms in a single dose. These strains support gut health and can improve regularity and relieve bloating, sometimes within as little as 24 to 48 hours. To me, what really sets Seed's Daily Symbiotic apart is the delivery system. While some products may offer the right strains, they're fragile, they rarely survive the trip through the gut, doesn't get where it needs to go, but Seed uses a capsule in capsule design that helps ensure the probiotic reaches your colon, which is where they often are needed. I've been taking Seed's Daily Symbiotic, and I really encourage you to check out their story and the science behind what they do. To try it for yourself, just go to seed.com/Dr. Drew. Use code Dr. Drew 20 for 15% off your first month of Daily Symbiotic. That is SEED.com/Dr. Drew. Use code Dr. Drew 20. This pandemic began, we were not sure how it
Well, I
spread.
mean,
Everyone began wearing masks and using hand sanitizers,
I'm
great ways to slow the
down
spread.
for us
And a
both
lot of people
just
still get
to
sick. I can personally
share
attest
the
to that.
time and
We now
space.
know
It's
that
all
COVID 19
good,
spreads via
I don't
aerosols
know.
and droplets from
I
the
was
nose
just
and mouth.
on.
And I've been thinking about this for a while. Why aren't we also sanitizing the nose and mouth, killing the virus directly at the place where it spreads? Why weren't more doctors thinking about this? Well, some doctors have done the research. Wish I discovered it sooner. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Halodyne. It's an FDA registered
Can
antiseptic
you
for
hear
the
me?
nose and mouth that's
Yeah.
proven to eliminate
Are you nervous?
99.99% of the virus that causes COVID
Yeah,
19 in
a
just
little
15
bit.
seconds. That's right. It's created by a team of clinicians with decades
You
of
guys,
experience in antiviral treatments, initially created to protect healthcare workers. These are smart scientists, and it's a great product that also eliminates many other viruses and infecting particles. I'm using both their nasal antiseptic swab and their oral spray to help protect those around me, and you should be too. For others and for yourself. Whether you're hopping on a 3-hour flight, always use it there. Visiting grandparents or attending a meeting that you can't miss, Halodyne's family of oral and nasal antiseptics give you the safe, easy, on-the-go antiviral protection for up to 4 hours. I encourage you to try Halodyne at halodyne.com today. My listeners get 10% off with the discount code Dr. Drew. That is HALODINE.com, discount code DRDREW. So obvious. It just makes sense. Stop the virus before it spreads and gets in your body with Halodyne.
hey everyone, it's a dose of Dr. Drew, and I have no idea why their voices came over the ads. And don't be nervous. It's good.
Yes, this is going to be fine. Easy, easy. Got a very welcoming audience here. We're bringing back our friend Eliza Bleu. She did a great job last time she appeared on the show. Rex came running in as soon as the show started, of course. He's got to make himself be known here.
And dig a hole in the ground.
Yes, he'll do that. Eliza, if you recall from last time we discussed this topic with her, she's a human trafficking survivor and advocate. As a teenager, she was groomed. We are going to talk about many things today, but she brought with her a friend, and her friend is Teresa Helm. Teresa is also a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, and we're going to get into that and the excessive sexualization, particularly of children. She also had the misfortune of getting into the hands of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, if I'm getting the name right. She's presently vice president of Victims Refuse Silence. So let me first say hello to Eliza. Welcome back.
Oh, great.
Oh, now we lost her. Now we
she's
lost
muted.
There you go. You back?
Okay, I muted him. Okay.
Oh, Susan muted you. Hold on.
Okay.
One.
Well, I muted him while they were. Okay.
Unmute.
Unmute
Now you're
yourself
good.
too,
You're
Teresa.
back. You're back.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. It's a pleasure to be back.
The nice thing is about flubs like that is people lean in like, huh? What you got to say? So everyone's listening to you now. So why don't you introduce me to Teresa? How about that?
Whew. Don't make me cry early on, Dr. Bleu. Teresa J. Helm is an inspiration, a brave woman. She's a mother. She's probably one of the most intelligent women I've ever had the opportunity to meet. She's a hero, and she is my friend.
And Eliza, I thought last time you were with us, you hit the right tone, and I think it was an impactful sort of interview, and I want to continue from there. So let me just switch over to Teresa, and where would you like to begin this conversation? I really want to leave this in your guys' hands. Of course, I have lots of questions and observations of my own, but Teresa, I want you to start this conversation.
Well, hello and thank you. I think a good way to start this conversation is probably the dynamic of what's happening and going on currently with the high rates of trafficking and the high rates of how this trafficking is even being done. Who's making it go round? What has to happen? What are the steps that it takes for these predators to accomplish what they set out to do? And I think that has a lot to do with early on in childhood and, things that happen, whether it's something that happens to a child up front, a violation, and they become a victim, or whether it's just the absolute nonstop visualization and what's going on, what I like to call systemic grooming, which is just they're being bombarded with left and right, you name it. It's in the music, it's in the television, it's in books, it's absolutely everywhere. This hypersexualization of children and the normalization.
Particularly female children, right?
It has to, there's a very large target for female girls, or girls as obviously, yes, and for boys as well.
Mm-hmm. And so embedded in your statement there is the idea that there have been a lot of trauma in childhood, right? That these kids are set up for victimization. So let's kind of parse that out a little bit. Do you think that some of that trauma is just the crazy images that rain down on them?
I do, absolutely. A child, if they're victimized already, so that starts out of the gate.
Well, let's define the range of victimization that sets them up for this kind of trouble. I mean, it could be abandonment, right? Could be just neglect.
Absolutely.
Could be neglect. Could be physical abuse, right? Mm-hmm. Hit with an object. Hit with an object is a threshold after which we see this stuff. Sexual abuse of many stripes. We can get into all the different types that are out there. There's even covert sexual abuse that gets people in big trouble. Yes. What am I missing?
The environment of today's world. Yeah. The television, music, TV.
And so that causes the systemic grooming that sort of sets the stage for true predators to come in and take advantage. Would that be accurate?
It is accurate, because what happens, I believe, is that these children internalize, and we don't know exactly how each individual is internalizing all of this influx of information and, visualization that they're getting. And then, if they're approached, that grooming process that we were just referring to is more easily accomplished, because they say, how are they to make sense of all of what they're seeing and what's happening? And they, in a sense, potentially may reenact or allow it, accept it. I shouldn't say allow, accept what's happening because they saw it, on their favorite TV program.
And there's a piece that people rarely talk about, which is all the dynamics that set those kids up to be such great targets. One of the extraordinary things about the human brain is that when we've been traumatized, we're sort of attracted to situations and people that were much like the perpetrators in the first place. And we don't, to me, that seems like job one first, is if kids have been traumatized, we should be protecting them or help them, a little cognitive behavioral therapy to help them understand how their brain works after trauma to try to undo some of that. Do you agree?
I do agree. The trauma brain is very real, and those, the neuroplasticity of the brain, the enablement of, that it can change and it can rewire, in a sense, to a healthier pathway.
Yeah, absolutely. Eliza, I feel like you must have stuff to add here too. Let's bring you into the conversation.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely feel like we live in a world that's hypersexualizing children. I think we talked about that last time, but I definitely think good parenting always helps when keeping your children away from these situations. Unfortunately, sometimes we see that the parents are the abusers or traffickers as well. And familial trafficking is huge, it's massive. So that's already a problem when we're talking about human trafficking and abuse. But I myself, Dr. Drew, I'm a little bit more libertarian in this way. I'm very, free expression. I like people to create art. I have WAP downloaded on my phone. Like I listen to, WAP by Cardi B. But if I had children of my own, I wouldn't allow them to watch it. Or if we did watch it, we would go over that this is entertainment versus reality, depending on the age. This is a conversation that's been going on for a long time. I grew up in the era of Marilyn Manson, and we were talking about, his effect on Columbine, or maybe that role that his art had to play in Columbine. I'm not shouting out Marilyn Manson. He has quite a few accusations against him right now, but I'm just saying that we always have to be able to define that line between art and reality and make those boundaries and those lines clear to children. But yeah, and the problem is when you have a phone, you can access whatever, whenever. So your parent's not there to explain to you, this is entertainment and this is reality.
And let's be sort of clear that I'm guessing kids that are a product of traumatic family systems or foster care are at higher risk. And we're talking, that's millions of kids. I mean, there are schools in Los Angeles where somewhere around 60, 70% of the kids, high schools, are from foster care. I mean, there are just unbelievable numbers of kids that are vulnerable because they were abandoned.
Yep. I believe it's about 70% of foster care children face abuse. Wow.
I mean, that's a crazy number.
If we look at that, then, I'm sorry to interject, but when we look at, the humanitarian crisis at the border, we're taking in quite a few children into our country. I'm not speaking about immigration. I'm definitely pro-legal immigration. Love it. Come to our country legally. It's awesome. But when children are come across, when they're placed in homes, they recently took away the FBI background search for folks taking care of these children.
Oh boy.
Some foster parents are being asked to take 27 children. We are at a humanitarian crisis. So not only are we already dealing with our situation here in the United States, our foster care situation with children being trafficked and abused, physically abused, mentally abused, sexually abused, this isn't a joking matter. This is very serious. And this is our entire next generation that's being shaped by this.
Well, and then the ones that are not vulnerable to all that are being crushed with the COVID lockdown, and God knows what the impact of that's all going to be. Tell me, Teresa, about the victims. What's that? Do you want to say something, Eliza?
Yeah, sorry to interject. Last time you asked me a question about COVID, and the COVID lockdowns ramifications on human trafficking have been deadly.
What happened?
I kind of brushed the conversation off because I was in a funky mood. But, just right away within the first 2 months of the lockdowns, we saw a 40% increase of calls to the National Human Trafficking Hotline. After that, it went up to 46% increase the second month of the lockdown to the National Human Trafficking Hotline here in the United States. Reports of child sexual abuse material went up 126% to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. So
when was that data collected? Over what period of time?
April and March was from from Polaris Project. They run our National Human Trafficking Hotline. And then the 126%. So overall, 2020 didn't necessarily look like it spiked. It went up a little bit. I think it went up about 1 million. So it went from 64
just
million.
Just a million? Just a million kids? No big deal.
No, right. But you have to take into account all the children that, when they weren't in school and they didn't have teachers or other members of the community identifying potential cases of abuse.
Oh,
so a lot of them
listen, I have a friend of mine that works in, did we talk to Lisa Stroman here on this stream? Did a podcast with her. I think it's up a couple weeks ago.
Wait, as a matter of fact.
Oh, wait, she's going to put one up here. And she has some data where just because of all the iPads that were passed out.
Wait. You know what? We
that?
can get her on the phone right now.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is she expecting this call? I don't want to bum rush her.
Hello?
Lisa?
Hello.
I hope Susan prepared you for this. She suddenly threw you up. You're on a streaming show right now. Are you okay with that?
Sure. Yeah.
No, she was prepared for it. I
Okay,
knew you
good.
were going to bring her up, so I had her ready.
Okay.
See how I am?
Yes, you're excellent. This is real producing.
I didn't have
everybody.
a chance to get her
Anticipating
face. I'm trying to find a picture of her face.
Anticipating the host's whims. But we're talking about the data on national missing and exploited children's numbers, and I brought you up as some of the numbers you had in terms of what kids were getting into with the iPads. Do you want to review that again?
Sure. Are you throwing the graphic up, or are you just gonna?
I'm gonna.
Want me to go?
You're
No,
gonna
you
wing it.
you gotta
Susan's
really
struggling.
sell it, girl.
Susan's struggling.
No, I was just getting a picture of your face. That was it.
Go ahead.
Oh, it's a great. The conversation has been so interesting, and I think there's so much passion that's happened. The work that I did with NCMEC and the FBI was, decades ago, and I currently still work with them. Trafficking, working with mostly online situations and issues that are happening where kids are kind of falling into these dark holes online and getting basically introduced to people that they have no idea about. And one of the partners that I work with now is Gaggle, and Gaggle has been really impressive in terms of giving us data in real time where kids are being thrust through the pandemic in these online worlds, and they're able to track through their AI technology what it is happening and what those kids are talking about. So some of those numbers of, it's like 130% increase in the number of sexual content that kids are actually putting out there from the same time last year. So there's a massive amount of data that's being shared. And I do have I just got a new file, but again, I'm on Team Save the Child and recognize that most parents have no idea, most individuals have no idea how easy it is to track children online, and how easy it is for traffickers or any sort of predator online to just kind of come in there and convince the kids that they're a safe person.
And you were telling me that there was sexual images coming at them at an extraordinary rate too, while they were in school.
Yeah.
While they were in school,
Yeah.
right? So-called school.
While they're in school, if a kid isn't offline, or if they search something up, or they have something inappropriate and they're just being curious, that advertising wormhole that comes through on it, they might start getting when they're opening up Safari or Google Chrome and opening these things up, they'll be advertised with these inappropriate pornographic materials right in that moment when they're trying to actually focus on class. So, we've got probably a 5 to 10 year gap. I think I used to say 2 to 3 years. The more data that I see now, the more time I think that we're going to have kids. Really, we're going to have to be focusing on mental health and bringing them back to center after all this exposure.
You guys want to comment on that? So I'm sure it's what you're saying as well. Teresa?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. To her point, exactly. It's not a case of if these children are going to come across this inappropriate content, or if they're going to be approached by someone at some point. It is a matter of when. And so having the tools ahead of time so that they can manage through scenarios like that when they are on their own, those tools are exceptionally important. In addition to the education and awareness, they have to have actual tools that they can use.
So, Lisa, I'm certain people are wondering, that are on our stream here and listening. Parents are out there now freaking out. What do you recommend they do?
The number one thing that they should do is sit down with their kids and communicate to them and just say, hey, I know things have changed. We're in a pandemic. There's probably a lot of stuff that's gone on your devices and through with your friends. And I just want to sit down and open the conversation. You're not in trouble. Your friends aren't in trouble. But I really feel strongly that we need to open the door to have these conversations without judgment so that kids feel comfortable talking about it. And we need to stop sidestepping the issue that they may or may not be introduced to it. And if we talk about it, that means that they 100% will be. They're already being introduced to it. And I think the statistic I saw that the average American child by age 11 have all seen pornographic materials is startling to anyone that doesn't know the stats behind it. But for somebody like me, I think that that's old. I think
that's old
yeah.
data. And you're
That's old data,
and
yeah.
Isn't it like 80% or something? It's very high, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the sexual content. I was just looking up the statistics for you because of the quarantine. We're seeing, like a 52% increase of incidents after hours of like messaging, 76.1% increase in incidents. You have a 280.9% increase in pornographic material for elementary students, a 96.3% increase for middle school students, and high school is a 35.8% increase. So it's, you look at from the pandemic, and this is just nudity and sexual content specifically, it's that elementary age kid where a lot of the parents might have been doing the right thing and they're really trying their best to do keep those kids away from the open World Wide Web, dangers that people want to talk about. But this 280.9% increase in elementary school kids, that tells me that we panicked, we handed everybody devices, and it opened that portal for these kids to get exposed to all sorts of things. So that's my terrifying moment when I saw those stats of how do we now pull back that door and let them know that you're not supposed to be in here. That's what's going to be hard to unwind.
And I'm guessing you're seeing a lot more psychopathological consequences of all that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that parents, I said this I talked to a parent that has 4 kids, and he found porn from 10 to 15 yesterday that has like porn on 3 of his kids' devices and a suicide draft in another one.
Oh.
I mean, it's really bad. There's not a lot of people that I know that do not have their kids in some sort of psychological and mental health treatment right now.
Oh my gosh.
So, Teresa, I want to comment on that.
It's terrifying.
I know it is. Thank God I don't have kids right now, but
well, we have kids, but
I mean they're adults. They're adults.
Suddenly, they're all disowned. Yeah, I mean, I think that, again, like, I don't think I see anything new. I actually did a podcast today. I had Sue Klebold on my podcast today. I think Eliza was the one that mentioned Columbine. But, I think that her book, by the way, A Mother's Reckoning, is so important to read. But this is not an issue where I think that parents that are neglectful. It's just the way that the world is right now.
Right. And is there anybody measuring the consequences on the kids? I mean, is there any downstream data on what the consequence has been?
Yeah, they're starting to. I mean, I think what the problem is, and the issues that we're seeing right now, is that the ability to take in data and be able to gather it from a scientific perspective when we have a transition in leadership at a federal level, like in the presidential election, like that, whether whoever you agree with who's in charge, that shift in ownership of what and where those dollars go and how we track things all starts over again. So it's an unfortunate timing as well, because everything shuts down in terms of like, how do we distribute funds and how do we share access because of that, not because of whom. It is just because of this transition. And so everything kind of has to start over. So I don't know of any data that is tracking it at this point, but I know that there certainly must be.
But let me frame it differently. Is there an accepted theoretical construct of what is likely to happen from certain amounts of exposure, or is it protean? Is it just all over the place? You know what I'm saying? Is anybody theorizing about oh my God, my kid was exposed to 10 hours of X. Does he now necessarily need certain kinds of treatment to prevent certain kinds of outcomes? That's sort of my question. It's a clinical question.
Sorry. Yes, absolutely. What you see is that you get hypersexualization, which is typically privately for X amount of years. And then that starts to normalize for the child. So then their consumption goes into more extreme content. And so if you look at research and what they see is that it goes into sometimes in like high school, certainly by college, if you've got a child who's been exposed to pornography since elementary school, you see inability to have erections, the fact that they're actually sometimes like taking in content of like rape porn, like all of these things that they start to then experiment in real life. And that's the part where I see middle school kids starting to test waters, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. By the time they get their own vehicle, a girl might get into a car to go on a date, and her date might pull out a penis or do so, and it's so inappropriate and so disturbing to me as a parent of a son and a daughter that I really started paying attention and starting to have conversations with experts about how do we have normal conversations about what real relationships should be like. How are we kind to one another? How do we show love?
I'm sure the three of you are aware we went through this weird thing for about the last 5 years where any conversation about the clinical reality of sexuality was negative, being negative on sex, have to be sex positive, can't say anything negative. I don't know what that was. I hope we're over that now. Lisa, do you think we are?
I think that we're starting to. I think it depends on who the messenger is. I think that there was this huge push for abstinence. They wanted abstinence, right? And they wanted us to teach that to kids, and it wasn't appropriate or not appropriate. I think that trying to teach sex ed in the schools is dicey at best. There's a couple of years now of kids that aren't going to have that education. We're starting to see STDs go up. We're starting to see pregnancies go up. So there's you take kids out of school and mandate them to be in certain places where adults are looking over them. They're going to go out and find things to do.
Yeah.
So that's going to have long-term consequences.
And what are the sort of general treatment modalities you're finding are working for this? Is it just CBT, or are you having to get kids into,
I think cognitive behavioral therapy. I think that even educational platforms where you can even get kids to go through programming where they're actually learning, it's okay that this feels okay. It's okay that this is the anatomy of these things. This is why this happens. This is why these things go that way. That's helpful. I can't tell you how many kids that I talk to, and it's that's pretty normal. That's okay that those feelings happen, or it's okay that this happens. Mm-hmm. Nobody's talking about it at all. Mm-hmm. So therapy is great if they've been exposed, but if it's another situation where you're actually trying to help them get to a place where they learn, that's education, and we've got to put dollars behind it.
Well, Lisa, thank you for dropping in. I will let you go. You have primed the pump here in really interesting ways.
And you can also find the long version of this interview on drdrew.com, the Dr. Drew podcast, episode 474. You can find it where you find your podcast.
Lisa and I got into it. I made my son, who's getting a psychology degree, listen to it. And I said, I think I told you, Lisa, I said, what'd you think? He goes, it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous what's going on. And I thought, yeah, it's ridiculous. That's a great way to summarize. This is bizarre and ridiculous, and we must do something. So
I'm so glad my kids are old.
Thank you for
we
raising
love
awareness.
you, Lisa.
And Lisa, we'll
come back
soon.
On the show soon.
All right, we'll talk to you.
Okay, thank you
so much. Now, let's Eliza, your reaction to all that.
Yeah, just to piggyback off everything that she was talking about, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children also reported this year an over 90% increase in a potential predator in 2020, potential predator contacting your children through tech, social media. So not only are they seeing this imagery, they're also being contacted by predators. I mean, it is on the ground, it's an epic problem. On the ground, it's an epic problem. Survivors stepping forward. Children are reaching out. They don't know what to do. They don't know who to talk to.
Well, is that what she called CMEC? Is that what that's the short acronym for that? NCMEC. Okay.
NCMEC.
Yeah, I know. I caught that, and I was like, I better get up on the lingo, man.
It's the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And actually, one thing, if folks are on social, please reshare the children when they go missing from their platforms. They post children that are missing. Please share those children. We need to find those children alive. 1 in 6 of those children is sex trafficked. According to their data, we need those children alive. So if you're on social, please follow the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
Now,
and if I may add something to
Teresa,
this real quick.
Always.
A real life example, just very recently, I have a 13-year-old son, and I, every now and again, and he knows I do this because I tell him, I communicate with him that I'm going to be doing these things at various times. But I went through his backpack, from school, and I found a letter in there that had been written, and I asked him about it. And the letter, I was shocked when I was reading it, and it was whoever had written it was a female, and it was basically a rape fantasy story. And this, my son's 13, he's in 7th grade, and he found this in his chorus class, on the floor. So this is the content that is being these minds, basically a rape they're exposed to on a regular basis.
I am telling you guys, you're too young to know this, but this all got unleashed in extraordinary ways during the 1970s. That's where this thing was unleashed. I mean, listen to the lyrics of a lot of the songs. She was 14 and barefoot, came in my van, and then I had to push her out of the van in the morning, and that's the way it went, and I'm a rambling man. I mean, that sort of behavior was glorified in a way that I believe, why we're still dealing with the echoes of that really horrific decade. Well, I'm telling you, I lived through it. Then I was doing a radio show where I was dealing with the consequences of it in the 80s and 90s. And we're still now, because of this new technology, the ball is still rolling. Tell me Teresa, about Victims Refuse Silence. Tell me about that.
Victims Refuse Silence was originally created as a platform to enable, to really provide a safe place for survivors to be able to step forward about their experience of abuse or trafficking if they so choose. It was originally started by Virginia Giuffre back in 2015, I believe. And I came on, and again, at this point, I do see it as more of a coalition of survivors. And again, really providing that safe place for survivors to come forward and share. And I also am very, very, very proud and pleased to be working alongside House of Sheriffs. And they are an organization in Atlanta, Georgia, and they serve survivors of trafficking. And they've got a really great thing going there. And we do aim to together open a boys' home here in Florida.
I have also, over the years, I've had contact with folks who are involved in recovery and helping with these phenomena. And I found oftentimes religious organizations can be very helpful, faith-based organizations of all types. Is there you have any recommendations there? Is anybody in particular? Because sometimes people like that approach. They want to go that way, and I'm all for it if that helps them.
Yeah, and House of Sheriff in Atlanta is faith-based. However, they're not ever going to be pushing it on you. No good places would. Yeah. I think I'd heard of them. I thought they were out here. Did they start out here or something? No, they started in Atlanta, and they are branching out and opening a home in Houston, and I believe Maryland, and a place in Ohio, and then again, just a very recent development to be opening this boys' home for minor boys only here in Florida.
That's a big deal, Dr. Drew.
Yes, it is.
Dr. Drew, she's downplaying it. Don't let it.
All right, let's talk about it. Push it out there. Let's talk about it.
It's a big deal because that's an underserved population, and Teresa has a big heart. She felt a pull on her heart to serve this very underserved population, and we feel very strongly that this is just the best move. So I'm just so proud of her because we need beds for men and boys. We need beds in the United States for men, boys, and trans folks. And
that's absolutely
great.
Yeah, absolutely true. There are so many times and cases that boys go underserved and overlooked. And, typically every year there's roughly 300,000 children per year in the U.S. trafficked. And about 36 to 50%, depending on which study you are looking at. But, about 36 to 50% of those are boys. And of, anywhere from 50 to 150,000 boys per year trafficked for sex, there are 5 beds available.
Wow. That's
5.
crazy.
It's crazy.
So push out your sort of where people go. Give them the contact information where people go if they're interested.
House of Cherith. So it's HOCATL.org. If they'd like to
Say it
donate.
again. Say it again.
HOCATL.org.
Okay.
And yeah, so you can go there. They do, of course, fundraisers. They're getting ready to do an annual golf tournament. And they currently serve women and girls, and they're in Atlanta. And then again, this boys' home in Florida to be coming up.
And if it's on your heart, think about donating, because a lot of these organizations out here have been struggling as a result of the pandemic. Please, every dollar counts. This is a population, and there's folks out there that want to help. So whatever you can do to help, please think about helping and donating. Donate your time, talent, or treasure to the movement, please.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
On our restream here, thank you, Casey, for putting up the link, and people are sort of responding here. Teresa, other people were on my. Well, I'm watching a chat stream here while we are talking. We'll put it up in between us. But early on, people wanted to hear your story, your Epstein story, that caught their attention. Do you feel comfortable sharing that?
Well, I can share certain aspects about it.
Go ahead.
I think it's important to talk about, the process of grooming and how that even came about. It really started, me at a massage therapy school, just minding my own business. I was a student. I worked at the school. I practically lived there. I was there all the time, and I was doing exceptionally well in school. This was out in California, and I was approached by a girl. This girl, then I go meet Sarah Kellen, and Sarah Kellen really, we spend a significant amount of time, at the beach together talking, and, again, without going on to the full-on story, but the conversation the opportunity was presented very effectively, to the point where I wasn't questioning, thinking that I was in any type of danger whatsoever. And then from that meeting, I was flown out to New York City to meet, Ghislaine Maxwell. And again, that was all very professional and I gave her a massage because I thought I was flying out there to interview, to be a private and personal massage therapist, to travel the world. And everything was super legit in my mind.
How old were you?
I was 22.
And did you have experience as a massage therapist, or that didn't matter to them, that kind of thing?
Well, I was in school at the time for massage therapy.
Got it.
I was approached at the school.
Got it.
Yeah,
I see.
I was approached at the school. So
did they cull students from that school or other schools?
I don't know that there was ever anyone else at that school that had any type of experience like I did.
Crazy.
It was
wild.
crazy because I don't know if it was a target type situation. I really don't know how that, the very first girl that approached me, there's no way on earth that she didn't know what she was doing. She was really starting the process. She was starting the recruitment process, that girl, Eliza, there at school.
Wow.
Before, and then Sarah to Ghislaine, and then eventually to where I was.
And the other kid that was doing the assisting in the grooming, was she also a victim?
Sarah Kellen.
Yeah.
She spent, I believe, about 12 years with Epstein and Ghislaine, and that's something that I cannot sit here and say one way or another. I believe that there's probably a bit of both. Was she victimized? Probably. And did she get very, very, very consumed in that lifestyle? Yeah. Yeah.
And so they took you to New York. Then how was that? Did the grooming go on from there? That slippery slope.
Right. So I met with Ghislaine in her very beautiful home. Nothing again. They greeted me at the airport. Not they, but the driver greeted me at the airport with my name on a sign and the beautiful, black car to take me from the airport, and, just the treatment. They had food, and, the kitchen was stocked at the place that I stayed, and everything was paid for. And so they really, really made me automatically feel like I was important, like I belonged there, that they really, really cared that I was there and that I mattered to them. And I hadn't even met Ghislaine yet. And at this time, I wasn't even aware whatsoever that there was even a Jeffrey Epstein at all. I didn't even find out about him until after my time, at the very end of time spent with Ghislaine Maxwell. But you know, the emotional connection she made with me, sharing stories, asking so many questions about me, to the point where I could tell that she was, you know, very, you know, well-spoken, very successful. She had a beautiful home. She had presidents on the wall with, you know, framed photos of her and presidents. And what really, really got me connected to her was the fact that, you know, by the end of our time, after spending a few hours with her, I really felt like I belonged there, and that she really wanted me there, and that I was pretty assured that I had gotten the job. You know, I thought that I was successful in the whole intention of going there, which was to land the job. You know, so at the end of our time together, that's when she expressed to me that I was going to meet her partner, Jeffrey. And as stated, I didn't know that there was even a Jeffrey up until the very end of my time with her. And at that point, I trusted her. You know, I trusted her, and I didn't feel like I was in any type of danger whatsoever to be going and continuing the interview. So I thought it was going to be a continuation, like the second half of the interview.
Right.
And I actually took it as a good sign, thinking that if I've made it this far and she wants me to continue on, that I probably
it was a job application process at that point, right?
It was.
When did the boundaries start getting crossed?
After I went to his home, I went up in New York City, and I went in and I waited a bit, and again, his home and her home, but his home was just absolutely breathtaking. All of it was. And then I'm chatting with him and the chef in the kitchen for a fair amount of time, getting along with them both, to the point I felt comfortable already. They're very charming, very nice, very polite. I'm making jokes, cracking jokes with them already in the kitchen. And then once because Jeffrey was actually finishing his dinner when I arrived. And so once he finished, and then he's like, okay, let's go ahead and carry on our conversation. And we go up to this really big castle-like office room. I mean, it was just huge. And looking back, now I know, like, when I walk in the room and he's showing me all these photos of him and all these world-renowned people, at the time I was thinking, don't be starstruck, just like, don't act like you really care. It's not a big deal. And then, not so long after we began talking, and he was, right away asking me all kinds of questions about my background, my family life, and what I like to see out of life and how my life has been. And then he had asked for a foot massage, and then the boundaries were crossed pretty quickly and swiftly.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. I wonder, it's usually, it's the sociopaths that know the victims, right? I mean, that's who knows how to pick them. And, you wonder how he knew that you had vulnerability there. That is that's the predator. That's what makes them a predator. It's like they sniff it out. It's the weirdest thing to me.
It is the weirdest thing. It truly is. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It's so true. They are master manipulators of human emotion. They know exactly what they're doing. And not only do they know exactly what they're doing, they really, really enjoy it.
Ugh. How long were you stuck with them?
Oh, I actually only had one.
So that was just that
one experience.
One thing.
I had one time. As I said, the boundaries, and I'm not going to discuss the actual abuse.
No, that's fine. Of course.
Yeah. I got myself out of there, and, he threatened me as I'm walking out the door, I ran to the door once I was able to really pull myself together and figure out what the heck to do with myself and get out of that situation. And, the crazy bizarro thing for me, even more so, which really psychologically, and not only was I terrified and all the things that goes along with, I mean, talk about, you have one mindset thinking that this is something, that once in a lifetime opportunity, you feel like this is meant to be, this is amazing. And then it turns so dark so quickly.
Ugh.
So there's that component to it. And then you get yourself out, but you're scared to death to say a word because you can clearly tell the power was just immense. And they really let you know how powerful they were. And then, they follow up with, thank you for coming out. We're considering you for the position.
Ugh.
And so
disgusting.
It is disgusting.
How did you take care of yourself after that? Is that when you got into treatment or did it take a while?
I did not right away. I didn't share. I mean, my family knew that I was going out there, my work, my school, everyone knew I was going out there, but no, I did not share what happened to me. However,
well, let's stop right there because that's a common thing, right? When people that have been victimized get victimized, they blame themselves, and they feel shame, as opposed to anger at the perpetrator. They blame themselves, which is again counterintuitive, but that's what worked. That's what happens. So naturally, you clammed up.
I did, and number one, the shame was overwhelming. Because I felt like I should have known. And I did absolutely blame myself. And again, being a survivor of childhood sexual assault, where I had to pretend the entire time for 3.5 years that it wasn't happening. And even when I did, I reached out at various times, but did not receive the help until a certain point when I finally did receive the help. So I did not have any kind of basis to feel that, that I was going to be able to help. No one was going to help me in my mind.
Right. You immediately go into that childhood mode and that's, it's all there. It just comes, it's all back.
Yeah. It was paralyzing.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's not, it's an easy thing to say, but it's what comes to mind for me when I hear these stories, that no one deserves this. You certainly didn't deserve it. And that's what's the saddest thing to me, is that you got involved with a criminal and you're in the wrong place, the wrong time, and then you blamed yourself. And you didn't
for a long time.
I'm sure that I've seen it. Eliza, you want to ring in here? I know you've gone your own sort of path with recovery, which is I fully endorse. Any thoughts on what Teresa went through?
Well, first of all, Teresa, thank you so much for sharing your story.
It's tough, right?
I don't know. I'll say this. Let me get it together. I'll say this. What the Epstein survivors have gone through in private and in public has been just absolutely
breathtaking.
It really has.
Yeah, it's been breathtaking.
It's tragic. It's horrible. I mean, it breaks my heart because Teresa's my friend. So I can read these things all day. I can hear these things all day. But to think, because I know her, I know how intelligent she is. And she's not she's a very intelligent woman.
Yeah.
To think about the devastation that those folks were able to create for so long and are still creating.
Well, that's the point. That's
many people got away with covering it up, Dr. Drew.
Yeah.
This is the cover up of our lifetime.
But I want people. I mean, no quarrels from me. But I want people to get not too focused on them and realize that's a dramatic symptom of a lot of what's going on. You know what I mean? That's sort of the tip of the iceberg. It's very dramatic. We shouldn't say anything different than what you just said, but also don't get too preoccupied with that. Realize there's a giant glacier underneath the water there that we have to deal with.
Always. I mean, I always say that there are a lot of Epsteins out there.
Exactly.
Epstein was one among many. That's the unfortunate part. And I always ask folks, focus on the survivors, listen to survivor stories. Teresa was brave enough to share a piece of her story today. Because the truth is that when you take out the elite aspect of the Jeffrey Epstein saga
Yep.
situation.
Yep.
This is happening in our backyard,
Yep.
Yeah.
not with elites. When you listen to the core of Teresa's story, she was groomed, she was coerced. I mean, these are all the same things that we see. This is the common thread, and this is the backbone of human trafficking. And I always let folks know that there isn't a lot we can do about the global elites, but there are a lot that we can do on a small scale to help survivors. There's not a lot we can do.
Well, listen, just the way Teresa told her tale, just being so open about it, number one, but number two, this blaming of the self part and the shame and all that, people don't talk about that enough. That's why I sort of prompted you, and that's why I appreciated you talking about that. That's
like, we didn't want to hear your sob story. We want to hear about the healing part.
well,
Yeah, well, it's been a journey, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I just want to say, but that when you talk about the shame, that's what tends to open the doors for other people, because you know how trauma works. You defend against it, and people are like, no, I did cause that. That was my fault. I shouldn't. And then you talk about, they hear a Teresa talk and they go, oh shit, and it opens up. So, but yes, let's talk about recovery. Go ahead.
Well, for me, recovery did not come easy. So afterwards, it was a downward spiral for quite a while. Well, again, the shame is it's all consuming. And it really did consume every aspect of my life. And I was not treating myself well, physically.
Here, let me shine a light on it. And I'm not saying this happened to you, but I'm going to tell you how it works for other people. Trauma causes emotional dysregulation. It makes you severely dysregulated, and shame and guilt are two of the emotions that are most present and most intolerable, and you have no ability to regulate the intensity and the negativity of those feelings. That's what trauma does to people. And you have no ability to go back into a healing frame with other humans, because that's the source of the trauma. And by the way, you're blaming yourself, and there's a lot of stuff going on that keep you out of the frame. People then turn to all sorts of other things to try to regulate, whether it's substances or cutting or eating disorders, or sometimes it's the sexual material. They consider themselves just, this is what I am. That's where I got to go. That's the direction I have to go, because that's the only way I can sort of justify the shame or sort of regulate the shame. And people need to be aware of that. And again, not feel guilty about that. Those are survival adjustments. Those are attempting to survive the intolerable. And so don't stop blaming yourself for all that. Everyone out there who might be engaged in that kind of stuff, and think more about getting yourself better. It's not your fault. Teresa, did I jump all over you? I'm sorry.
No, you didn't. That's fine. And it's all very true what you're saying.
Yeah.
And it's real easy to say, don't blame yourself, as we all can sit here and say that. And there are so many people out there potentially listening that will come up with 10 reasons why they should still continue to blame themselves. So it really is a journey. And, I'm sure if I did not get professional help at the time, however, who knows what would have happened if I did. And I did. I started, there was substance abuse, and I got very, very thin, and just, again, was not treating myself well. There's various ways I tried to cope and deal. And I think for me, what really ultimately, and again, it really reinforced as well that ideology that I was literally garbage and trash from my childhood experience, because that's exactly how I viewed myself, was that I was not even worth anything for anyone to help, that I was just trash. So it was a really deep internal struggle to take a look at myself in the mirror on a daily basis. And I did continue. There was something in me that continued to fight for myself.
Did you at one point see yourself clearly, so to speak? Was there a moment when you could see it?
Yeah, and that was when I became pregnant with my son, because I then, for the first time, valued myself. And I knew that I had to be very healthy and well for this beautiful baby that I was going to bring into this earth. And that was the defining moment for me. And he completely changed my life.
Eliza, I'm guessing you had a moment of change too. I don't remember your moment per se.
Yeah, it was Dr. Jordan Peterson really was what
Oh,
really
right.
changed.
That's right. That's right. But was
But
it, do you,
there were other things leading up to that. It wasn't just that was truly the moment that changed for me, changed a lot of things, just the way that I view life and myself. But I had a lot of support, Dr. Drew. It was a slow process. It wasn't easy. I went to a safe house. So there were those seeds planted there. There were amazing advocates that gathered around me and just were really there for me, Dr. Drew. And it was just really, really nice women that took care of me and expected nothing in return.
Yeah.
And that wasn't something I had felt in a long time.
That's nice. So there were, last time you kind of resisted the idea that there was novel relationships back into your life, but it sounds like that's where that came in.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Well, I've just noticed that these moments of change where people see themselves as they are, and that they'll have a moment where they like literally see themselves. Usually they will feel something like disgust. The disgust pushes them away and go, oh, I got to change this. I have to do something. Or anger, disgust or anger, something like that. Some really negative, like, oh, I see it and I can't be like this anymore. I must change. And you kind of have to see yourself, the way I frame it, with a new pair of glasses. And it's other people that help us do that, to get us outside of ourselves. And so that's why I was asking those questions. I'm just fascinated by these moments of change, because people can do a lot of stuff that's destructive for a long time, and then all of a sudden, boom, they change. And it's hard, but they're willing to do it, and they're motivated to do it.
Well, I knew I was going to die like that, Dr. Drew.
Well, knowing you're going to die is another motivator.
I'm going to die like this, and this is how I'm going to be remembered.
But you believed it. You in your toes. You believed it. Right. You really believed it. So that's that moment. That, believe I'm going to die. People can get it to change. And Teresa, you're nodding as well.
Yeah. Well, the disgust of myself, even after becoming a mom, and that knowing what a mother is meant to do, it just really, really transformed me. So I went through a terrible, I'd say one of the darkest years of my life was the first year of life. Not because of my son. There was the part of me that was really, really walking through the mud and the darkness. Mm-hmm. And then there was the part of me that was absolutely so grateful and blessed to have this beautiful baby boy. And it was such a conflicting feeling to know that I'm so worth being this beautiful boy's mother, and having to take a look at everything that I've ever experienced and the complete depth of all the self-hate for so long. I had him just before my 28th birthday, and it's, my life is tremendously better. And I'd say my healing has gotten tremendously farther from what it was then. And I will always continue to seek out self-improvement and growth for the rest of my life.
Can you let the light in?
Absolutely.
Good.
Because
I'm sure you wouldn't let yourself for a long time, right?
That's right. Because I didn't feel like I deserved it.
Right. That's how that works.
Yeah.
Yep. That's how that works. But if you're there where you can let it in, it will keep filling. It will keep getting better. Things improve. Liza, anything on your recovery that you relate to here?
Well, a big thing is being aggressive. I mentioned that previously in our last episode together, just being very aggressive in my healing, reaching out if I need help. Also, taking suggestions. A lot of the suggestions that you gave me last time that I was on with you, I acted on them right away. At the time, this is typical of me. I kind of hem and haw and want to be punk rock, like too cool, like, oh, I don't need help. I'm still like that. But I did it was literally the next morning before 9 a.m. I was already moving on those suggestions after I thought about it. I also have good friends in my life. My
Great.
best
Very
friend,
important.
Amanda, shout out to Amanda. I know you're watching right now. Teresa knows Amanda as well.
Yo, Amanda.
What?
Yo, Amanda.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, hi, Amanda. Shout out to Amanda. But she kind of we talked on the phone after my last appearance, and she told me, Dr. Drew's right. You need to take those suggestions. So that's the other thing too. It's having those friends that hold you accountable.
Yep. Yep.
And Teresa's good too. Just to give her some props, when she's struggling, she's really good as well about reaching out and being honest.
I was going to say, you got to give yourself that space, because it's an injury, right? And you just like if it was your knee or something else, once in a while it gives you trouble, and you got to go do some more physical therapy or whatever it is, and you have to just accept and keep moving, and going to rehab that knee and get it where it's maybe better than ever would have been. Who knows? But you got to give yourself that space as well. Susan, anything on your plate? Oh, we can't hear you. Hold on.
You guys are doing a great job. I'm just goofing around with the graphics. I'm sorry. I'm listening though.
It's been a really good conversation. Have we left anything out, ladies? Is there anything else that we want to leave people with in terms of, again, recovery and help?
Actually, I just saw a good comment go by from Robin. I saw the comment, how hard is it to find someone that can, like a mental health professional? It's been very difficult for me personally to find someone that can directly relate to what I need. A lot of folks don't understand the nuances of human trafficking. So it's really difficult to understand that complex trauma, especially in coercive trafficking situations. That's where I struggle as a survivor. Other survivors, they connect to folks right away.
If you start with somebody that has experience treating trauma, that's first. You have to sort of look for that. And then you have to have somebody that you feel comfortable with and connected to, and who has a sensibility in this area, I would say. So it shouldn't be that hard. It really shouldn't. Because in today's world, most people that work in mental health are trained in many of these phenomena because they are so damn common. This is childhood trauma is the adverse childhood experience. Childhood trauma is the problem of our day. And COVID got in the way of it for a while and made it worse, I would say, as we've been discussing. And we need to get back on it. We need to get back on it and really put it in the front of our minds as where it belongs. Agreed, ladies?
Yeah, absolutely agree.
All right. Well, listen, I'm good. I feel like we did a nice job of revisiting this topic and looking at it from all the appropriate angles. One more time, I'll have you each give out the information where they should be going if somebody knows somebody, wants to learn more, wants to give money, wants to be of service. Eliza, you first.
Okay, well, you can always find me on Twitter at Eliza Bleu, ELIZABLEU. You can always find me at eliza.locals.com. Dr. Drew is also on locals.com. That is my sweet oasis on the internet. I'd love for Teresa to get on Locals, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, getting there.
But, and for folks that are looking for help, last time I was on your show, Dr. Drew, I had 2 survivors that I know of that stepped forward. Please, if this is a situation that's resonated with you today, if this podcast has resonated with you, this live stream has resonated with you, please reach out for help. The human trafficking hotline is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 200 plus languages. The sexual assault hotline, same. Domestic violence assault hotline, the same deal. Please reach out for help.
Right. You don't have to be trafficked. This is all the sort of zone of the consequences of trauma, but you need to reach out. And if you're being trafficked, then if you're being trafficked,
past or recent trauma.
Right.
Even for past trauma, you could still call the hotline.
Absolutely. But if you're trafficked, please reach out quickly. Don't wait. Do not wait. All right, you guys, and then Teresa, any last words from you?
Yeah, again, you can find me at Teresa J Helm. That's TERESA J Helm on Twitter, and House of Cherith Atlanta. If you feel it in your heart to donate, please donate there. They will be grateful. With lots of things coming up in the works with House of Cherith, and they've been doing a phenomenal job serving survivors of abuse and trafficking. And I feel like it's very, very important, if I were to leave one final word, for parents to please continue or start talking to your kids on a regular basis, continue to check in with them, and really, really help them, even if it's not you, their own parent, help them identify a trusted adult in their life.
Yeah.
To have that person that they can go to for anything. And because oftentimes it's not the parent, you know, especially for teens.
That's right.
So having that one person can be the saving grace for that child.
Completely agree. Thank you, guys. Eliza, thank you for coming back. Teresa, thanks for sharing the story and doing the work that you do. Susan, tomorrow, was there somebody?
Thanks for our audience for being so open to this.
Yeah, people were very engaged with this one.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Drew, and thanks to the Twitter mob for boosting the ratings on this. In your feelings about a couple tweets.
Yeah, exactly. But that they didn't read.
I had one guy complain about the levels at the very end. I was like, now you complain? Like,
I think the sound was fine.
I tested it, but I know it's hard with different voices and phones, but we do have a fun person tomorrow. We have Nicole and Jimmy.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Nicole is, again, watch her on Instagram at Mrs._Anjemi, A-N-G-E-M-I.
Banner.
She is a pathology tech. We're going to talk. She's going to try to stump me diagnostically with a few pathology specimens. It's a very different topic than we went into today.
I was going to do that, but we'll save that for next time, Doctor.
I want to see your liver cross sections, but
I was going to do that.
Is it a spleen or is it a lung or is it a heart? Here she is.
There's Nicole.
She's fully tattooed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's great.
Darn it.
She's so fun.
Next time, Eliza Bleu will also bring her path specimens.
It's Dr. Bleu to you, Dr. Drew.
Anytime. I gotcha. I hear you. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much. And we will, Susan, you ready? We'll see everybody tomorrow with Nicole and Jimmy.
Not surprising me.
Bye, guys. Thank
you. Bye.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Good night. As we're gradually moving back to opening schools and businesses and, of course, our in-person interactions, I want to remind you, this is all time with cold and flu season getting going. Staying hydrated is key to helping your body deal with the added stress and with the upcoming flu season. My regular fans have heard me talk about a product called Hydrolyte for a long time now. It's an amazing rapid rehydration drink. It's a mix that, well, we're obsessed with here. I'm excited to announce they've just released Hydrolyte Plus Immunity, just in time for cold and flu season. Hydrolyte Plus Immunity starts with their fast-absorbing electrolytes and adds a host of immune-boosting ingredients. Each single-serve, easy-pour drink mix contains 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C and 300 milligrams of elderberry extract. Creates what is hopefully immune-boosting formula that's high in antioxidants and zinc. Combining this with Hydrolyte's 7 key electrolytes, it's a fantastic way to stay proactive and properly hydrated. Hydrolyte Plus Immunity comes in convenient, easy-to-pour powder sticks that rapidly dissolve in water and make a great tasting drink that has 75% less sugar than your typical sports drink. It uses all natural flavors and it is gluten-free, dairy-free, caffeine-free, non-GMO, and it is vegan. And you can find Hydrolyte Plus by visiting hydrolyte.com/Dr. Drew. Again, that's HYDRALYTE.com/DRDRW. And be sure to use our code Dr. Drew 25 at checkout for a special discount.